Welcome to episode 32 of the Courageous Coach podcast, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what it really takes to be courageous with your clients, your business, and your life. I'm your host, Melissa Hay. In this episode, I'm in conversation with Clare Norman about the concept of mastery in coaching. We explore what mastery means in the context of personal and professional development, really emphasising that mastery is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Clare shares with me her experiences as a master certified coach and the importance of ongoing learning, supervision, self-reflection in the coaching profession. And we explore the need for coaches to engage in our own inner work to effectively support our clients and the joy and the challenges that come with this commitment to mastery. We also chat about the importance of integrating personal growth into our professional practice and how activities like painting, singing, and even line dancing can contribute to a coach's development. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Courageous Coach podcast. Thank you so much for being here, whether you're watching or you're listening. And today I am delighted to be joined by Clare Norman. Thank you so much for being here and joining me in conversation today. And Clare and I are here to talk a little bit about mastery. And that's really, that's as much as we've kind of agreed, really. We're going to have a conversation about mastery and what that means to us and what it means in the context of kind of coach development and becoming a courageous coach. And Clare and I feel like it's I have to share this because I feel like Clare has pretty much been with me since the beginning of my trepidatious, if that's even a word, trepidatious steps into kind of setting up my business, being an external coach. Clare was kind of really there from the beginning. In fact, I think that when we met, my very first conversation with you was, I really want to set up my coaching business and what did you do and how did you do it? And Clare shared openly and beautifully and we've worked together many times since, supervision and mental coaching and all sorts of things. And I'm delighted that we've become friends too. So she is a big part of my own coaching journey. So I'm delighted to be having this conversation. So, Clare, let's start, as I always do, with just tell us a little bit about you.
It's such a big question.
It is.
Where to start? And so perhaps I'll start in the context of mastery, given that that's our topic today. I am a master certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of all of the development that went into becoming an MCC. And I notice how mastery is a never-ending journey. And so I'm still very much on that explorative journey with the inner work. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about inner work as we progress today. My specialty, as you know, is mental coaching to support other coaches to credential. And the competencies are really important as a grounding, but they are not enough. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure. And then I am also a coaching supervisor, and these kinds of questions around mastery and how to be the best coach I can be, they are always coming up in coaching supervision. So in terms of the coaching I do, because I do believe that we all need to have our own coach, as well as supervisor, as well as mentor coach and therapist. But in terms of the coaching, well, actually, I'm just saying that topsy-turvy. We all need our own coach, which I do have a coach. We all need our own supervisor. I have my own supervisor. We all, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that in order for me to support other coaches in their discovering who they are as a coach and how to be the best coach they can be, I also need to be sure that I am keeping myself sharp by actually coaching and knowing, experiencing what are the kinds of themes that are coming up time and time again, because they have shifted over the course of my 20-odd year career in coaching. So that to me feels really important as a part of my portfolio, that I'm not only here to support other coaches, but I am doing the coaching as well, such that I have experience in that space, renewing experience, always figuring out, how could I have done that differently? Or we, because it is a partnership.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there. There's so much more I could say, but
I mean, this is going to be a really rich conversation, because I noticed that that for me, it has never been truer in any other kind of professional capacity that I've had than in coaching, that the statement that in order to do the work with others, we must do the work ourselves. And I think that you and I are similar in as much as we work or do work with leaders in a coaching capacity, but we also work with other coaches.
Yeah.
And I too feel this real responsibility. It's kind of like twofold. The first is I'm still doing the work and will continue to do the work forever, right?
Yeah.
I am not finished. I am not done.
No.
I am not the expert here.
No.
And also, therefore, that's such an important part of how we show up in the world as coaches. And I think this term mastery, there's a lot of, maybe we might say, contention or discussion, debate around what we mean by mastery.
Yeah.
And I think you made clear in your intro there, and I know we're aligned on this, is that mastery is not the destination. It's not the done point, right? I am always moving towards mastery. And so I think this is why when we talk about mastery in the context of being courageous and developing our grounded confidence, it's about recognizing that we are committing to mastery and practice and that continual journey. And it's that commitment piece, which I think is the piece that I spot in others, like that real commitment to, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to discover, I'm curious about what's around the corner, what this client might bring. I mean, the richness of that is what excites me about doing this work, more so than any work I've ever done, right? Yeah. It's just the joy of it for me, the joy of pursuing and committing to that mastery, really. And so how do you define might be too narrow a word, but I'm really curious about for yourself, how are you defining mastery? How does it what shape does it take? There's the question. What shape does it take for you?
Oh gosh. I think it's an amorphous blob of a shape.
I love that.
In that it's really elusive. You might be trying to grab hold of it, and yet this thing called mastery is just beyond reach.
Yeah.
And then it's over here, and then it's over here. So it does shift. You said it's not a destination. The more we know about ourselves and what we don't know, the further out that might feel to us. But there's something about the commitment, as you said, the discipline of always attending to sharpening our edge. And so, that's how I describe mental coaching, is it sharpening our edge. And then with supervision, I talk about that being about staying safe and sane. So sharpening, safety, sanity, they all feel very important as part of this mastery. And it is not a destination, as you've said. And it's one of those words that I think is really hard to pin it down with a definition, except to say that we will have gone through other stages in order to get there. So we will have gone through a beginner stage, and then a practicing stage, and then we'll graduate towards kind of an expert stage. So mastery is past expertise. It's more than expertise. It's the depth of understanding, the depth of figuring things out, the continuous quest. I suppose it is a quest, really.
Yeah. I think that's that's really interesting, actually, to me, because I think that I spent a lot of time in my early coach development kind of, I think as many of us do, right, learning the process and getting really skilled and comfortable and confident with the process of coaching. And that looks different for different people, whatever your process looks like, but getting really skilled, confident, and maybe we might use that word expert in that process. And I think in my journey where it tipped for me into there's something beyond expertise. So I love this idea that mastery is that beyond that, right?
Yeah.
Because it was that tipping point of, okay, this thing I'm holding that I think I've been told is a rule, and I don't think I actually was told it was a rule, but I'd taken it as that. It's not about you, it's about the client. The way I read that or interpreted it, internalized it was, keep yourself out of this completely. It's not you, it's them. And so I think I lost a bit of my humanity along the way.
Yes, I recognize that.
Yeah, totally.
Because there's something about competency frameworks and rules and, putting stuff into boxes and doing it right, in inverted commas. That is quite it strips it back to something, to a rubric that we can tick off, but it removes that humanity. It removes the soul to soul connection. And I think that the work I'm doing at the moment is around love in coaching, and how can we reintroduce love over and above the competencies to reintroduce this humanity into the work we do. Because as Carl Jung says, I won't get the quote exactly right, but learn your tools and processes well, but then touch the beauty of the human soul. That is where, I've just had a tingle going right the way up my body as I say that. It's like, that is the work of mastery, is touching one soul to another soul, one human to another human, and bringing back this quite a feminine archetype, I suppose, into our coaching. The competencies are quite a masculine archetypal way of seeing the world. And we need both.
Yes.
I'm certainly not saying we got to get rid of the competencies by any stretch of the imagination. We need those to ground us, to make sure we have the basics. Yeah. But once we get those into our bones, then we can transcend those, move past them. It's not leaving them behind. When I say move past them, I don't mean leaving them behind. I mean, making sure that we're reintroducing if we got rid of it in the first place, which is kind of what happened to me, and it sounds like it's what happened to you. That when we work with competency frameworks, we feel like we're a bit boxed in.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
The work that I'm doing with the mentor coaching I'm doing with aspiring MCCs now is the both and. It's, yes, you've got all of these competencies to meet from, the assessors will be looking out for whether you're demonstrating the competencies, but not in isolation, not as tick box exercises, but really as a human to another human. They will be looking for this additional presence. I mean, presence, I suppose, is the way to describe it.
Yeah. I think it's really important that you what we're clear on here is that this is a yes and right. Totally. And all of those competencies and the processes and the tools, and just like you said with Jung, learn them well, right? Yeah. But then be prepared to be, to put them aside when you meet that beautiful human in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something interesting here, because I'm struck by something I said earlier on, and then, we're talking about mastery as this journey, this direction, if you like, that we're moving in, rather than a destination that we're getting to. And the thing I was struck by is that, for me, where I am right now, there's a real joy in mastery for me. I'm loving it. I love it. Right. What's the next piece of, self-development, personal development that I want to do, need to do, based on, where I'm at, my reflections, my story, where I'm going, all of that.
Yeah.
So there's a real joy in it. But I said that, and then you were mentioning about supervision and talking about sanity. And that made me smile, because the other thing that I have discovered is that alongside the joy is also the recognition that sometimes this kind of development is exhausting.
Oh my God, yes.
like for every bloody question, there's an answer, and then there's another flipping question afterwards.
10 questions.
Yes.
Yeah, multiple.
I'm like, sometimes I just think, can I just be finished? Can I just be done? Because this is hard, right? And exactly. And so there's something wrapped up in this for me as well about around kind of self-compassion.
Yeah.
Because what I see in a lot of coaches, and I know I do this myself as well, is we beat ourselves up for stuff that we don't think we've got right, or that we think we could have done better. We're so hard on ourselves. And also, what I've come to realize really only in the last, I don't know, maybe even just 2 years, is that it's not really about getting rid of stuff. Like, oh, I don't like that piece about me, I want to get rid of it. It's about, okay, there's a piece of me that I'm hiding, or I'm keeping away, or I'm suppressing. What is that about? What's underneath that? What's the need that's not being met? All of those questions. Yeah. Because I think it's so important when we're on this journey towards mastery that we go gently and we are kind to ourselves in that process, right? It's so important, because it's blinking hard. It's
Yeah.
not an easy path to choose, right?
No, I agree. And, what you're describing is quite different from horizontal development, where we might opt for another content-laden course where I must learn another tool.
Yeah.
That is really different to what you're describing of this inner work, the depth of understanding myself and what my blocks are, and unpacking where those blocks have come from. And so in my case, blocks to love, blocks to humanity, we might call it. So I think what you and I are both talking about is more akin to vertical development rather than horizontal.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of when we're, I read a lovely quote the other day, I won't be able to remember it, but there's this, when we're kind of on the cusp of some kind of breakthrough into some kind of new discovery about ourselves, it's bum-clenchingly horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yes, I want to, I'm so close to something new, I can feel it.
Yeah.
But, this is hard. I'm having to tussle with this. One part of me is telling me this, the other part of me is telling me the other. They're having this argument in my head and in my body, and it's causing my body to do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's like, why would anybody ever want to do this, really? Because it's really quite tricky.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's worth it. It really is worth it, because as you say, there's such joy in that. To be able to harness all of who we are, and become more of who we are. So it's all of and more of.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And I think what I've found as well is that, and again, I don't know that this is true for any other like professional or profession that I've been in, is that what I find with coaching is that, or what I've discovered is that what I'm actually doing is I'm developing and growing as a person. So that is not just about how I work with a client, right? This is about who I am in my entirety, in all my glorious technicolor, and in all aspects of my life. And I think that's the other bit that I maybe wasn't quite prepared for when I thought, I want to go down this road, was that actually this is going to impact on all areas of my life as I learn and shift. My loved ones, the people closest to me, they're all going to experience that shift as well. And so it's working on you as a human, and therefore don't think it's just going to make you a better coach.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah, it's much bigger than that. Much. I mean, it's worthwhile anyway doing it to make you a better coach, but it's even more worthwhile when you see the impact it has on your relationships in the rest of your life. And, I love the expression, I think it was Edna Murdoch who came up with it, who we are is how we coach. And so we are inextricably linked to the human in us when we are coaching. And we bring all of that with us. We can't leave it out, as you so rightly said earlier on. And anything from our past that is still needing some attention will get in the way of us being the best human, the best coach we can be at any given time. And we do our best now, and as we learn, we will do our best up a notch and up a notch and up a notch. Yeah.
So I'm now curious about your journey towards, not to mastery, towards mastery.
Of mastery, I
of
normally
mastery.
say, because even towards suggests that there's
a destination.
Yeah,
a journey of mastery. Yeah, I like that. Nice little switch.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, you know, there's some obvious stuff here, right? Like you know, you have worked I know very hard and over a number of years and really invested in getting towards your master certified coach accreditation, and you're rightly proud of that achievement, as you should be, right? And you know, you know the value of supervision, mental coaching, you mentioned therapy, you know, being coached yourself, and these are all support mechanisms and ways of that, or parts of that journey, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm really curious about is what else has been part of your journey of mastery outside of those things that probably the audience recognizes quite well. What else has there been for you?
Well, I do want to come back to the therapy thing at some point, because I think that's important, and I don't think we pay enough attention to that as coaches.
Yeah.
But the other kinds of things that have helped me with mastery are completely non-coaching related.
Yeah.
For example, watercolor painting. So with watercolor painting, you have no control over where the paint goes, because the water takes it wherever it takes it. And so your painting ends up being something other than what you might have intended. And my watercolor teacher, you know, says that's the whole joy of it, is that, you know, we need to let go of control, let go of knowing, let go of a final outcome. It will be what it will be. So you can hear in all of that how useful that can be when I transpose that into my coaching.
Yeah.
So that's one kind of thing that I do that, you know, might be less obvious. And I'm not saying everybody needs to take up watercolor painting, but hey, it's really good for if those are the kinds of things you need to be practicing.
Yeah.
I'd also say singing in a choir, because of the, you know, the harmonies that you're creating. So there's something about practicing being in partnership, not being solo, how to bring out the best in, you know, in that harmonious way of being together. I'd also, and you know, I didn't start going to choir because I thought it would help me with coaching, but I've recognized as I experience it, what is going on there, it then comes into my coaching work. Even something for me like weightlifting, which again you'd be thinking, well, what?
Yeah.
How does that help? But there's something for me about posturally being able to, you know, shoulders back, feel the strength in myself, so that I can show up as a full partner to them, not stronger than them, but strong enough in my own core, my own body.
Yeah.
So that I'm not shrunk with, you know, there's something about the physiology of how I am able to stand because of the weightlifting that I do.
Interesting.
And how that broadening of the chest is also actually giving my heart a chance to open up.
Yeah, I love
So it's really not obvious stuff, but I feel how all of those kinds of things that I do in my hobbies and whatever, support my sense of being fully human for a start, but also something about the transposition into my coaching.
Yeah. See, I find that, those things fascinating, because I think again, coming back to this idea of joy, there are many, many opportunities to expand and create space and understand yourself as a whole, that you aren't in a textbook, or but it's being able to, well, I think it's two things for me. It's recognizing that there might be a connection between that thing I'm doing over here. I wonder how that might connect with the work I do. Yeah. But also I think it's also recognizing that you're going to have experiences in your personal life outside of your work that you might go, oh, that was cute. I wonder, that's interesting, right? So it's a real I love this idea of widening your view. And I think there are also ways that you can be more playful with this. Kind of coming a little bit back to this work's heavy. Sometimes you can be playful with it too, and I think that's important.
Yeah,
and I've heard people talking about throwing pottery, and if you force it, it will collapse. I'm like, what a wonderful metaphor for coaching. I'm a huge fan of improv, just for fun. But it's a wonderful way of partnering, putting down your clever, being in the moment. Absolutely. Saying what's right there on your tip of your tongue rather than overthinking. Lovely. And
yes,
I'm going to have to share. I started last week. I went to my first ever line dancing class. Now, I went on my own. I knew not a soul there. And I did it actually quite deliberately, not linking it to coaching, but linking it to courage. I recognized this was a courageous step for me.
Yeah.
But I've chosen it because it's silly and it's playful. And I'm not very silly and playful naturally. It's something that's I've learned to not be for many, many reasons, which we don't need to go into. But I'm like, I need to be silly and playful. And I was like, oh, I like the idea of line dancing. I like the music. I like the idea I don't have to dance with someone else. I can just do my own thing. I'm going to go, right? So, but that whole experience, and I've only done one class. I'm going back because I love it. But I've only done one class, but already I'm thinking, oh, that's curious. Why do I want to practice that dance more than that dance, the one that was hard? So there's some really interesting, and I love that widening, that breadth of look at all this glorious growth and learning that's available to us if we just open up a bit.
So not thinking so blinkered about, I've got to do another coaching related course. More tools or whatever, but actually starting with what is it I want to develop in myself this year?
Yep.
And therefore, how might I go about getting that is not necessarily competency based or whatever. In your case, it's courage linked to getting on the dance floor. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I might join you. So we live just a little bit too far away from each other.
I know. But you've already got the cowboy boots, right? So,
I fit right in.
So look, let's come back to therapy, because you said you wanted to come back to therapy. So let's go there.
Yeah. So what I've discovered in the last 2 years of therapy is that I don't know how I ever managed to cope as well, but cope before having therapy. It's like, oh my God, all this stuff that's been getting in my way. And it's, the interjects from upbringing and the things that I've internalized from messages from all sorts of different places that I needed to pay some attention to in order to free myself up from those, in order to be a better human and be a better coach. And so I talk about it quite openly because I think it still has a stigma. And I mean, I have found it to be absolutely the most life-changing thing. So I want to encourage coaches to think about it for themselves, partly because it will help them as human beings. Yes. I think we all need it. We don't need to have suffered some big trauma, because we will all have experienced these introjects, these messages that we received over the course of our lifetimes that will have made us the person we are today. And yes, being able to integrate those things. And it might be therapy. In my case, it's Gestalt therapy, or it might be shadow work, which may be in therapy. But now I know of supervisors. I think you know of.
I do. Yes.
Who does shadow supervision, or supervision with shadow in mind. And that feels so crucial to our work, for us to be able to get ourselves out of the way. It's not about not bringing ourselves into the coaching. It's about getting this stuff out of the way so that we can be there fully for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what I want to say about.
Yeah, I think it's such an important point, because you're right. I think there can still be a kind of reluctance, or if I say out loud that I'm in therapy, people will think I'm broken or there's something wrong with me, or so that I absolutely agree. And I think the more people talk about it and share it, that and what not the detail obviously, but what they're gaining from it, that that I think is so important.
Yeah.
And I know I found that, because the reality is we are walking around with lots of stories.
Yeah.
That we've carried, some of us, our entire life, and we have carried them for so long that they are our truth. So they're just there, aren't they? We don't question them. It's just It's the truth. And I think to be able to sit with someone who can, in whatever philosophy or approach they use, but someone who can help you to think about, where did that story come from? What was or is that story protecting you from?
Yeah.
And, does it still need to protect you, or is there a different story that you might choose? And I think this is where for me, so I say this in a lot of the work that I do, and it so applies to therapy, or it certainly did for me as well, is that I think awareness gives you choice. What choice you make that's up to you, right?
Yeah.
But you have to develop the awareness first in order to have a choice. And that's where our autonomy, our agency, our power, our confidence comes from, right? We can make choices. But to do that, we've got to have awareness. And I think all of the things we've probably talked about, the perhaps more traditional formal stuff, and also some of that, the slightly obscure stuff, maybe, that's all about developing that awareness so that you can then make a choice, right? And a choice with your life, a choice with your client, a choice with your business, it applies across the whole spectrum, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start drawing this to a close, because I am fully aware that you and I could now continue to chat, and we could go on for a very long time. So, maybe there's a part 2. There's something else maybe here that we can work on or talk about, have conversation around. But so what I'd like to close with, Claire, is the people, probably predominantly coaches, but there will be others, of course, in the audience. But what would you want well, the coaches listening, what do you want them to know about this commitment to mastery?
I want to say that learning does not stop after you've finished your first coach qualification. You know, I sometimes get people coming to mentor coaching 3 years after they got their first credential, and they say, oh, I didn't realize that I needed to do 40 hours of continuing coach education in those 3 years in order to get my renewal at the end of it. Or, oh, how am I going to do that? And I'm like, really? You weren't naturally doing that?
Yeah.
And developing yourself. And so although you and I think a vast majority of coaches are learners, you know, in our core, there are some who kind of think, right, I'm done now.
Yeah, I've ticked that box.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to encourage people to be thinking seriously about, you know, at the beginning of each year, planning for the year, planning their development for the year, planning their line dancing equivalent for the year. Not as a New Year's resolution, but as a, you know, having a plan of, here are the things that I feel I most need to develop as a human being, and I'm going to develop by choosing to do X or Y or Z. And that's not always about courses. It is much more broadly about having supervision, having mental coaching, therapy, painting, dancing, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole spectrum of developmental opportunities.
Yeah. I always call that deliberate development, right? I want my development to be deliberate, not haphazard, not just stuff I fall into. I want it to be deliberate, you know? And maybe
that looks interesting. I'm free on that day. Let's go to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there is room for that as well, because some of these things come up that you could never have predicted, that you're like, oh, that looks great.
Yeah.
But it's, being deliberate and intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I would say, you know, I will reiterate what one of the things that we've kind of explored is that, you know, if you're on your own journey of mastery, or thinking about that or contemplating it, right, there is enormous joy to be found, but it's also really hard. So go gently, be kind to yourself, and you know, really take the time to invest in the support for that to happen. You do not want to do this alone. That's my bottom line. You do not want to do this alone. So
there's a lot of vulnerability in it. As,
100%.
Brené Brown would say, and we need our own tenderness to ourselves, but also support.
Yeah. Well, Clare, it's been a delight. Thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation, explore mastery with me, and share your thinking, and, you know, allow us both to share our thinking around mastery, because I do think this is an important message because of this, you know, debate around what does that mean? And it's, I want to just, you know, this is about commitment to mastery and discipline and practice. Yeah.
The
absolutely.
Commitment piece feels like it's the more important piece than the badge of mastery. For sure.
Yeah. Wonderful. Clare, thank you so much. Take good care of yourself.
You too. And have fun line dancing.
Oh, yes. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Coach podcast. I hope it gave you something to reflect on, something to feel, and maybe even something to act on. If you've been nodding along or feeling that tug of recognition, you're not alone. These conversations are here to remind us that courage isn't about having it all figured out. It's about showing up, doing the inner work, and being willing to be seen, even when it feels uncomfortable. If that sounds like the kind of coaching journey you want to go deeper into, I'd love to invite you to check out the Courageous Coach program. It's designed especially for qualified coaches in the early years of building their independent practice. Those who want to coach with more courage, clarity, and humanity, and grow a business that truly reflects who they are. You'll find all the details over on my website, and I've popped the link in the show notes to make it easy for you. And if we're not already connected, come and find me on LinkedIn. Whether you've got questions about the program, want to share what's resonated for you in this episode, or you just fancy a chat. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know another coach who might need a little courage boost, pass it on. Courage is contagious, after all. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, stay curious, stay human, and keep choosing courage.